Alright, I am back. So, continue. Load. Alright.
何も見たくない。何も聞きたくない。時間は一定じゃない。記憶には矛盾がある。視界にはエラーがある。地球は回ってない。これはきっとゲームなんだ。
Oh. I stuffed my mouth with some fish sausage as I turned on my PC.
僕じゃない。
Before long, my monitor shone brightly with my Seroton wallpaper.
僕がいるべき世界は。
I went straight to ESO and opened it without an ounce of hesitation.
ここじゃないんだ。
Ah! Shit! I was very close to going to chapter 2 anyway. I should have just finished chapter 1 last time. I didn't even realize how close I was. Well, anyway, vroom, quick, get on if you're going on the field trip. All aboard! Lying face down on the floor, Nishijo Takumi had held a colored pencil in his hand. The one he was currently using was yellow, having switched from a red one only a few minutes ago. He joyously ran his pencil across the spread-out sketchbook, which he was nearly lying on top of. Takumi loved drawing pictures. He would always doodle on the edges of his notes during every lesson at school. The morning news had been left running in the background, but since news and the like was boring to a fourth grader like Takumi, he did not pay it any mind. Vroom, get your candy, only 300 yen. He was drawing a yellow bus and pretending he was the driver. All ashore, that's going ashore. We're heading out of room. As he imagined the scene in his head, he made it actually happen in the picture. Times where he would get too excited and actually draw on the tatami beneath him were not exactly infrequent. Nanami, who would always read manga beside him, would scold him each time he did it. She had some nerve considering she was the little sister. She usually saying things along the lines of, "Well, come on, don't get the floor all dirty." Even so, Takumi never became any less immersed in his art. However, when he got to the point of drawing the people in the window, his hand suddenly stopped. Then he ripped up the sketchbook and threw it away. On the previous day, on the day when the autumn field trip had only been one more day away, Kamakumi had suddenly been told by his parents that he couldn't go, even though it had been something he had been looking forward to for a very long time. So much so that he had been in a constant state of excitement for the entire day, wanting the next to arrive as soon as possible. That cruel declaration from his parents was something Takumi absolutely could not accept. He kicked and screamed, saying he would definitely go, no matter what, but it was no use. His parents would not listen no matter what he said, which was only to repeat the same words again and again. You just can't. We're doing this for you, Takumi. Takumi sank into his bed and trembled with so much frustration he was very close to ripping his futon to shreds. He resented his parents from the bottom of his heart. For Takumi, that field trip had been a big event that could not have come soon enough. Everyone else in his class could go, but he alone was not allowed to. From his perspective, that was beyond unreasonable. Takumi was in a lonely world. Everyone else was in a super fun world. To him, it felt like he alone had been completely cut off from it. He could not forgive the teacher, his classmates, anyone. They had all left him behind. And he especially could not forgive his parents for their sudden unfair decision. Those feelings transformed into pure hatred toward his parents and toward all of his classmates. Takumi bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. He muttered curses at them over and over. I don't think anyone should be allowed to go. The following morning arrived. The phone had been ringing over and over again since dawn. Each time his mother would pick up the phone, she seemed to be very shaken while talking. Takumi could not get even a wink of sleep. The clock passed 9 a.m. In her usual well-behaved manner, Nanami was sitting on a floor cushion, reading manga. She had told Takumi the day before, "I'm gonna take you from school to keep you company, okay?" As if she thought it was the obvious thing for her to do. Their father had already gone to work, so he was not around. Their mother was very busy with phone calls and had yet to prepare breakfast. There was no need for him to go to school that day. Sullen as he was, Takumi opened his sketchbook and began drawing to distract himself. His feelings of rage refused to subside, so he tore up the sketchbook in frustration. As he did that, however, Nanami sounded puzzled. Takumi had thought she was talking about his picture, but her gaze was actually aimed at the TV. Nanami called out loudly to her mother, who was still busy with the phone calls. Not listening, Takumi followed his gaze and stared vacantly at the TV screen. The screen displayed a scene of a collapsed elevated highway. A section that was only about 50 meters long had fallen. Regrettably, a bus driving along there had been caught up in the collapse, toppling onto its side beneath the overpass. It was the very same bus that Takumi should have been on. The bus his classmates were riding on. From just a single glance, Takumi could imagine exactly what had happened. His classmates were on the screen. One child was sobbing, another had blood all across their forehead, another was lying atop a stretcher being carried into an ambulance. The reporter was announcing the state of the accident with a grave look on their face, but Takumi did not really understand what they were talking about. His mother was standing at the entrance of the room, holding a cordless phone. Her face was pale. Oh no. Died. For some reason, Takumi was already sure of this. Everything happening on TV was eerily similar to what he had pictured in his head the night before, when he had been overwhelmed by frustration and hatred. There was only one feeling that occupied the depths of his mind, a peculiar conviction, one where he was assured that he had precognitive abilities. Long ago, a show on TV that examined people who claimed to have ESP had been etched into Takumi's mind. A person with precognitive abilities had appeared on the show, shocking the world by demonstrating frightening ESP in the experiment. The experiment verified whether or not the psychic could guess which of 12 items were placed in which numbered box. They did this by placing the subject in a different room and then proceeding to have them predict which cards with the item name on them belonged to which box. Afterwards, staff members in the other room would place the actual items into boxes and verify how many the psychic foretold. The person on the show received an incredible 90% correct, causing an uproar among the entertainers. As this happened, Takumi tested if he could predict things the same way that Psyche on TV did, only to get every single one correct. Of course, he did not tell anyone else about this, so as he gazed up at the TV, he believed that the accident was yet another instance of his precognitive predictions being exactly right. His mother tried hugging him as he lay down, but Takumi avoided her grasp and crawled to the corner of the room. Her eyes swam about as she whispered in a hollow voice. Takumi felt sick. They were useless, he thought to himself. His abilities had not made a single difference. Just thinking about it made his heart turn to ice in an instant. After that, Takumi stopped speaking to others for a while. He quite literally went mute. He did not say a single word to another soul. His parents worried about him, and their already overprotective habits escalated even further. Finding them to be acting more and more ridiculous, Takumi thus decided to play the role of a mute boy. He thought of it as revenge against them. Due to his complete lack of talking, his mother took him to be seen in the psychiatry ward of the General Hospital, and there he was diagnosed with PTSD. Since Takumi did not actually have PTSD or anything of the sort, he never once took his medicine, and merely pretended to. His parents never realized he was acting, and in the end, he didn't even feel even a hint of pity as they worried themselves sick over him. Everything feels like a lie. The world was filled with falsities. It was overflowing with malice. It was out to get me.
いつもあなたが使っているチャットルームへログインして自分で調べてみてください。私の言っていることが間違っていないってわかるはずです。それと私が言ったことは全部本心です。これだけは信じて。
After bombarding me with her nonsensical theories, Yua had said that one last thing before she left. There was no way I could believe her. How the hell am I supposed to believe someone that had been lying to me this entire time? I refused to believe everything there was me, like Yua had said. Everything she'd said about me being Shogun was a total joke. I wanted to believe that. But when I checked the timestamps in the chat log, there was no mistaking that the conversation wasn't matching up.
僕は無遊病なの。
Somnambulism or noctambulism, a behavior disorder in which, during sleep, especially non-REM sleep, the subject gets up as if they were conscious, wanders around, eats, bathes, etc., but cannot converse beyond simple topics. Depending on the individual, the state can last anywhere from a few minutes to half an hour. At the end of that time frame, the individual returns to the place where they were initially sleeping and goes back to sleep. In this state, the individual is completely unconscious and as such has no memory of their actions once they wake up. This behavior often occurs in people with mental problems and is often said to be caused unconsciously by stress. I used to sleepwalk when I was younger. I used to move around in my sleep when I was younger too. I don't really do that anymore. Problem was, during the time Shogun appeared to be posting in chat, I hadn't been sleeping at all. If I recalled correctly, I had indeed been at cafe at that time, but I hadn't slept, so I couldn't have been sleepwalking. In that case, I wondered why I didn't have any memories of posting as Shogun. Maybe my body had been under someone else's control, which would mean... No, that's ridiculous. I felt that the best way to calm myself down was to escape from reality into the fictional world of ESL. Okay. Also, hold on, let me edit the title, at least on YouTube. After all, I might as well just remove that one, the first part. There we go. Alright. In ESO, everything was fake. A lie. At the end of the day, this world was just a part of a video game. But in base art, I could become the godlike existence known as Neidhart. A fabrication like that, a lie like that, was something I'd readily accept. I wanted to stay there. Nobody would mind if I did, would they? Or maybe. The world of ESO was actually the real world, and my own reality was the fake one. Just a game. In that case, Nichijou Takumi would be a fictional character, and Neidhart would be my true form.
ねえ、ナイトハルト。
I called out to the Falcon standing inside the monitor. Am I controlling you, or are you controlling me? Which is it? Could you be real, and I a mere avatar? What if the world I was in was just a game in and of itself? If that were true, then that would solve every mystery I was struggling with. What if, just like how I was staring at Neidhart within my monitor, what if someone was staring at me in the exact same way? I wonder. Huh? Yes. Whose eyes are those eyes? That would make them the player controlling me. If I did have someone controlling me, would it kill them to do less of a shit job? I guess an avatar couldn't really complain. It would also explain how Shogun and I could be the same person, validating that theory. Come to think of it, it was kind of like what Lysolot was. Neidhart and Lysolot couldn't possibly exist in Space Lord at the same time. I was the only one playing as them, after all. Maybe Shogun and Nishijo Takumi are similar, and they also couldn't exist in the world at the same time. It was also possible that it was a bug. Speaking of bugs, encountering that bizarre girl in a murder case, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff that had happened, could have been bugs too. The image Shogun had sent me flashed through my mind. I gripped my head with my hands and frantically shook it away. I wanted to run away from everything. If just maybe, there was a player controlling me. Please, reset me already. Just remake my character and start from scratch, please. Sorry, buddy. You're stuck in there. You're stuck in there. You're stuck in that life. The waiting room of the university hospital was filled to the brim with middle-aged people waiting to be examined. The view hadn't changed from a few years prior. It almost made me feel as if time had stopped there. Moreover, everyone there looked miserable, and the smell of disinfectant pervaded the stagnant air. It was the kind of place that sucked all the life out of you and made you wish for the sweet embrace of death in 5 minutes tops. I didn't like hospitals. You're sane, but that's because America. And the way the lobbies had countless people, the corridors beyond felt completely devoid of them had always freaked me out, ever since I was a little kid. It almost felt like the corridors themselves absorbed and stewed in the stench of death. I always felt like that was what a hospital truly represented beyond its outer facade. I even thought that some horrifying creature was lying in wait deep within the corridors. Just more people. I mean, to be fair, people can be quite scary themselves. That was why I really didn't want to go there. There was something I had to make sure of no matter what, so I found myself reluctantly waiting my turn in line for an examination. Even when I tried to fully immerse myself in ESO, the bombshell that Yua had dropped on me continued to swirl around inside my head. I hadn't been able to concentrate for even a second. As a result, my mind had been torturing me with all the various possibilities all the way until morning. I'd become genuinely scared that something was wrong with me. That was why I went to the hospital to get an official stamp of approval from a medical professional that said Nishijo Takumi is completely normal. I wanted to prove that it wasn't me who was abnormal, but Yua. I was used to coming to the hospital's psych ward, yet when the grill at the reception asked, "Is this your first time?" I nodded without thinking. Ever since that bus accident, my mother had regularly taken me here for checkups. During middle school, my physician had said I had completely recovered and I stopped going after that. This was my first time coming back in about 4.5 years. The first physician had been some senile professor who was supposed to have some authority in the field. I'd only seen him a few times, and after that someone else had taken over, a student of his or something. Aww. Although, despite calling himself the other guy's student, he hadn't been particularly young. To be honest, he looked pretty old. The night before, I was reminded of something that Dr. Takashina had said.
ここは病気や怪我だけじゃなくて心にも効く病院なんだよ。
I hated hospitals, but that doctor had been very nice. He'd left a good impression on me, and I thought he was a good person. Well, even then, I'd still thoroughly fooled all the adults to the very end. That is, except Dr. Takashina. He'd seen through it all, and he was the one who had declared me completely recovered.
あの人に調べてもらえれば。
Wonder what he'd say if he learned that I'd become an otaku freak. Nah, there was no way he'd remember me after all this time. I had to wait 3 hours before my name was finally called. 3 fucking... Oh my god. I would hate this. Jesus. I mean, to be fair, I usually make appointments, so I don't have to worry about this. But if I do have an appointment, I would absolutely hate for this to happen. Jesus. 3 fucking hours. It was a different examination room than the one from 4 years ago, but when I stepped inside, I was welcomed with a face I remembered it dearly. The doctor was exactly what you'd think of when you imagined a kind old man. His face definitely looked older than most, but yet also soft at the same time. His demeanor only served to emphasize those qualities. He hadn't changed a bit since I'd last seen him 4 years prior. It almost made me wonder if he was physically incapable of getting any older. I'd never known his actual age in the first place. The desire for me to latch onto him and never let go became stronger and stronger. I could rely on him. He could save me. I felt incredibly happy to see him again. But the first thing that came out of his mouth was...
今日はどうしました?
His voice was indeed gentle and filled with a kindness that calmed the hearts of others. However, it didn't carry the same familiarity that it had back when I'd been visiting the hospital regularly. Felt like he was only interacting with me on a purely professional level. So I couldn't help but tell him my name.
西条です。
ん? ああ、これはご丁寧に。高階です。はじめまして。
He bowed his head cheerfully. I was lost for words. Pleasure to meet you. That was what he just said. He'd completely forgotten me. I should be surprised. It had been 4 years after all. But I truly believed that Dr. Takashina of all people would remember me. Maybe that was arrogant, but I'd hoped for it all the same. So my heart was overwhelmed with loneliness and emptiness when those expectations were smashed to pieces. It felt like my very existence was being denied. Dr. Takashina started talking to me while making eye contact, but I averted my eyes.
無遊病かどうか調べてほしいと書いてあるが、何かあったのかな?
Right, I'd written that on the questionnaire. It was all meaningless now. He didn't remember me at all.
別にいいじゃん。
Ah,
先生が覚えてようが覚えてなかろうが関係ないっしょ。最初の目的を忘れちゃダメ。
oh right. I had come here to meet Dr. Takashina. I'd come here to prove that I was a completely healthy and sane human being. Our reunion was merely a bonus. Who gives a shit if he'd forgotten me? If Saratan hadn't stepped in and given me that advice, I would have come dangerously close to losing sight of myself. Phew.
自分でも知らないうちに外に出かけててパソコンで文章打っててそれを全く覚えてないなんてありえますか?
おお。
知り合いからそう指摘されて混乱しちゃって。
その知り合いの人が冗談を言っているっていう可能性はあると思うかい?
Yua's eyes had been serious. It hadn't looked at all like she was messing with me. At the very least, I had no doubt that Yua believed what she said.
わかりません。
なるほど。
Hmm.
ちなみにその知り合いとはどういう関係だろう? 恋人?
Not really. Where the hell had that come from? What did it have to do with anything? Was I missing something here?
いや、言い方が悪かったかな。じゃあ言い直そう。その知り合いの人は、君が意識もないまま歩き回っているのを実際に目撃したのかな?
Oh, so that was what he meant. I shook my head.
じゃあ、証拠はないわけだ。
I once again shook my head.
そいつ探偵気取りっていろいろ証拠を突きつけてきて。
そういうことか。ちなみに、これまでにも無遊病の兆候はあったかい?
いえ。
朝目覚めたらいつものベッドじゃなくて違う場所で寝てたっていうことは過去に一度でもあった?
いえ。
じゃあその知り合いに言われたのが初めてっていうことだね。
After nodding weakly, I sealed myself and spoke.
僕、寝てないんです。
もしかして怖いのかな。でもそんなに深刻になる必要はないよ。
いや、その...
That's not what I meant. I couldn't figure out how to explain it, and it was too late to say it out loud anymore. I was too flustered. Just speak! After scribbling something on the medical form, Dr. Takashina swiveled away from me in his chair and leaned forward toward the back of the examination room.
葉月くん、ちょっと。
Ooh.
はい。
Oh. Huh. The young nurse rushed over to him, and Dr. Takashina showed her the form. As he did so, he whispered for her to do something, and she quickly withdrew to the back of the room. What had that been about? The doctor turned back toward my puzzled self. Then, in a gentle voice, he began to explain to me how sleepwalking worked. When a person falls asleep, they first begin non-REM sleep before eventually progressing to REM sleep. Non-REM sleep is a deeper sleep where the brain hibernates and brain activity ceases. Meanwhile, REM sleep is a kind of sleep where the body is resting, but the brain is active in a state that's fairly close to being awake.
無遊病はノンレム睡眠の時に起きやすいって言われてる。脳が通常の活動をしていないから普通の受け答えとかは成立しにくいけど、ちゃんと返事もするし、階段などを踏み外さずに上り下りすることだってできる。原因としては精神的なストレスを抱えてる時になりやすいんだ。子供に多い症状だけど成人でもよくある症状なんだよ。これで分かっただろ。深刻になることはないって言った意味が。
But I hadn't been sleeping. Even though I hadn't been sleeping, I'd still done things I didn't remember. The time Shogun had been posting from room 37 in the chat room should have been when I was busy playing ESL. Could sleepwalking really be possible there? I wanted to ask him that, but he was already moving to a different topic.
無遊病かどうかを調べる方法としてはいくつかある。一番手っ取り早いのはここのベッドで寝てもらうことだね。ただ特定条件じゃないと発生しない場合もあるかもしれない。例えば自分のベッドじゃないとダメとか。意識がない状態で出歩くにしても目的もなくふらふらと歩き続けるのか。それとも何らかの脅迫観念があってそれに影響されて何らかの一連の目的を持って出歩いているのか。それに君の精神状態についても特定の条件下じゃないとダメかもしれない。自宅のベッドの上ならリラックスできるけどここじゃリラックスのしようがないわけだ。どうする？とりあえず寝ていってみるかい？
I had nothing to lose, so I didn't see a reason not to try. Then, after I proved I wasn't sleepwalking, I could try asking the real question I had in mind. The nurse from before, Hazuki-san or something, guided me over to the hospital bed located at the back of the room. As it wasn't a bed meant for sleeping, it was firm and uncomfortable. Then again, considering the sofa I usually slept on, that shouldn't pose any problems for me.
3時間くらいしたら起こしに来ますから。
Aww. This nurse was pretty damn cute. As I lied on the bed, I took a quick peek at her face while being careful to avoid eye contact. Her baby face made her look kind of unreliable, and she even had this almost despondent aura about her. She was doing her job pretty well. She felt like a heroine right out of a classic eroge. It was a kinky hospital sex. Really?
できるだけ目は離さないようにしていますので、安心して眠ってくださいね。
Basically, if symptoms of sleepwalking occurred, like I started wandering around on my own, she'd make sure I didn't get hurt or anything.
それではごゆっくり。
After giving a slight smile, the nurse closed the curtain and left the hospital room. Now surrounded by a pure white curtain, I took a deep breath. All around me, I could hear the voices of doctors examining patients, the sound of nurses running around, and the sound of the door, the examination room opening and closing. I doubted I'd be able to relax here. Could I actually fall asleep like this? I wouldn't. That's maybe because of my HD. I mean, unless it's on a weekend. Then there... But... Recently, I've actually been able to not fall asleep on the weekends. Huzzah! As in, during the day. After I've already slept. Figuring I had nothing to lose, I closed my eyes. No matter what I did, my mind refused to think of anything other than that corpse that had been massacred and crucified with stakes, as well as the gory pictures Shogun had sent me. Oh yeah, I understand that too. I understand that. Persistent thoughts. So I forcibly conjured serotonin into my head. Ah! White screen!
タッキー、外出嫌いなのに病院来るなんてすごい。私前から思ってたんだけどさ、タッキーって実はすごく強い男の子だよね。
Sarah animatedly moved about in my delusion. Her cute voice chirped for me.
私、そんなタッキーの強さが好き。それに、タッキーは無遊病なんかじゃないよ。私、毎日タッキーのこと見てるもん。だからわかるさ。三次元女になんか騙されちゃダメだぞ。タッキーには私がいるっしょ。またコンテナハウスで二人きりで過ごそうね。ボケなす。
Serotan, you're so cute, Serotan. She really was my ideal waifu. There wasn't a single one better than her. 3D, the fuck was that? I want to go home already. I want to go home and have Serotan welcome me back with a smile. Wait for me, okay, Serotan? I'll be coming home soon.
西条さん、起きてください。時間ですよ。
Serotan softly placed her hand on my chest and gently rustled me awake. Don't. This is the kind of thing I've always dreamt of. Living together with Serotan, I'd have her wake me up every morning wearing nothing but an apron, complete with a wake-up kiss.
西条さん。
I slowly opened my eyes. Someone was looking down on me from above. I accidentally made eye contact with them. It was Nurse Hazuki-san. I frantically looked around at myself. Just like before, I was lying on the hospital bed. So everything from when Serotan had started talking to me was just a dream.
おはようございます。
Okay.
結局3時間ぐっすりでしたね。
A full 3 hours, but it felt like I hadn't slept any more than 5 minutes. As I rubbed my eyes into daze, Hazuki-san glanced at me before covering her mouth as if she couldn't hold back a smile.
セイラさんって彼女さん？
Oh yeah, talked in his sleep. That's for sure.
ずっと寝言でつぶやいていましたから。
Well, that confirms that he sleep talks. Even I could tell that I was going pale. I'd made one hell of a mistake. How can I have let someone hear my sleep talking? What's more, of all things I could have said, I blurted out Serotan's name. I can confirm I don't sleep talk, because I've fallen asleep on stream before. For up to an hour, even. So, I can confirm. Because, at the very least, the sections that I checked, no sleep talking. I didn't say anything. Yeah. So. Fuck. So this is despair. I want to die.
でも無遊病の症状。
おい。おい。Okay. Okay. The screen froze for a moment. The stream froze for a moment. But Everything's fine, it seems. As she opened the curtain, Hazuki-san conveyed that to me.
まあ今日はたまたま症状が出なかっただけかもしれないから無遊病でないっていう断定はできないですけど
No, I really don't think I'm a sleepwalker, so. More importantly, I had to ask the doctor that really important question. But I couldn't see him anywhere. As I looked around, Hazuki-san handed me a blank form. Not really focusing it all that hard, I took it from her and ran my eyes over it. As a fill-in-the-blank style
それ
form.
はあなたの心理状態を把握するためのチェックシートです心理テストのようなものねそれを書いてくれたら今日はもう帰っていいって先生が
先生は
ごめんなさいずっと診察が続いてて来週まで様子を見てまだ改善が見られないようならもう一度来てくださいって
Then again, it wasn't like he was my primary physician or anything, I suppose. He'd probably just given Hazuki-san a bunch of directions to get me out of here. Well, I guess that meant there had been pretty much no point in me coming to the hospital today. I really wanted to ask Dr. Takashina about that, someone that wasn't me controlling me. Whatever it meant, it was a really chilling symptom, so I didn't want to leave without getting an answer. That being said, I didn't have the courage to demand Hazuki-san to bring him back to me, see me, especially when she already looked so apologetic. Reluctantly, I decided to give the test a try. I guess I had to write about my symptoms on the back of the sheet or something. If I did, I should be able to get another examination scheduled for next week.
チェックシートは質問に対してイエスかノーかだけを答える簡単なものですから当てはまる点があったらイエスにチェックしてくださいね今後の西條さんの治療に対する参考にしますからじっくり考えて答えてください
Hazuki-san went out of her way to explain the procedure thoroughly. The test had some strange questions mixed in, ones you wouldn't normally expect to run into at a hospital. It really did seem like some sort of personality test. Would they really be able to actually learn something from questions like these? Hazuki-san stared at me intently. She showed no signs of leaving, but it wasn't like she had nothing else to do or anything. It was more like she was monitoring, no, watching over me or something. My nervousness at being watched made it hard for me to think clearly, but I guess she was just doing her job. Either way, I knew I was out to fill out the test quickly. Aww. I mean... Jesus. I mean... I might as well... Apparently... There's... quite a few things. I mean... I mean, at the very least, those ones that I checked are things that Takumi would probably check, but might as well check all of them according to this thing that it says that I'm following. Might as well. So, might as well just check all the boxes. Visit on the hospital questionnaire. Check all boxes. As well. Yep. Everything.
はい、お疲れ様でした。
Everything! Hazuki-san thanked me as I answered the final question, despite the fact that I hadn't said anything. I felt pretty embarrassed at being watched the whole time. My face was probably bright red. Because of that, I avoided looking at Hazuki-san when I handed her the test. There had been no time to write my symptoms on the back.
それでは待合室でお待ちください。お薬が出てますから。
Huh?
薬
You're prescribing me something? Dr. Takashina never said anything about that.
ええ、先生の指示で。弱い精神安定剤です。
Ah.
ぐっすり眠れるようになるし、副作用などもありませんよ。
Huh. Oh, wow. Thoughtful as ever, Dr. Takashina. Yet, when I realized I would have to wait in that lobby again, my mood was immediately sent spiraling. Oof. By the time I had gotten back to Shibuya, it was already evening. The hospital was technically in Shibuya Ward, but since Yoyogi was the closest station to it, commuting via train was the fastest. But the Yamanote line had been as crowded as ever, and despite only being 2 stops long, the trip back still made me incredibly tired. Riding the train any farther would have been a pain in the ass, so I decided to get off at Shibuya Station and make my way back to base from there. Even then, there were still tons of people outside the station. I despised crowds. They made my head spin. Not wanting to stay much longer, I tried to speedwalk out of the scrambled crossing. Even walking straight was nigh impossible. Stumbling even slightly caused people from billets behind and in front to bump into me. What's more, a bunch of people handing out pocket tissue packs blocked the way, practically forcing everyone to pass by to take them. Fed up with everything, I ignored the first person handing them out, but took some out off the second because at least he was a cute grill. I was so sick and tired of these people handing out these tissue packs and shit to push their products. Didn't they have anything better to do than stand up right in the middle of the road? Well, whatever. It was free, so might as well take it. Inside the tissue pack I took was a red flyer, and there was a paragraph's worth of shit written on top of it with white ink. Talk about ostentatious, like, holy shit. You couldn't exactly miss something with that color scheme. As I walked along, I gave it a quick skim. Type B blood is in short supply. Currently, Shibuya Ward is suffering from a severely short supply of Type B blood. This has only continued to worsen, and we've been struggling to secure the proper quantities of blood for those in need of transfusions. In the worst case scenario, this may lead to the deaths of many. Without your cooperation, lives may be lost. Please consider becoming a blood donor and visit a donation site located at Shibuya Station at the Inokashira line. It was a blood donation flyer. As I read it, I thought back to the form I had filled out in the hospital. Didn't have any memory of filling out something like that 4 years ago. Maybe the way they examined patients had changed recently. Even then, though, something I felt oddly familiar about the test. Deja vu. I've been getting hit by it all the time recently. Having my mind and body not function this way I wanted them to, with a sense of dissonance, was an incredibly uncomfortable feeling. So in order to ascertain the true cause behind the deja vu, I tried flipping back through the pages of my memory. I thought back when Mom had taken me to the hospital about once a week. I kept my mouth shut at all times, and I expressed myself via nodding and shaking my head. First, I'd been taken to a perfectly ordinary examination room, but since I showed no signs of improvement, I started going to a different room before long. The room had essentially been a counseling room, which meant to put the patient's relaxation first and foremost. In other words, there were sofas and plushies and whatnot located all throughout the room. Dr. Takashina had taken a very patient approach to treating me, all while refusing to blame my situation on anyone. He alone caught on to how I was merely choosing not to speak rather than having the inability to do so. Meanwhile, my mom would always talk to me in an unnaturally cheery voice. Every time I had gone to the hospital, the doctor would always welcome me with a refreshing smile. The nurses also treated me with all the love and care they could, and I had a feeling that there had always been one more person in the room. This guy. This guy right here. This guy. This, with how things are, or like how the game is captured and all. My mouse on my screen is showing up right around the guy in a black suit right here, but I have to move my mouse even a little further for it to go around this guy. Alright, there had been a man in a black suit, one that felt fairly out of place in the hospital. Since I'd been doing my best not to speak, I never asked about him. I didn't know who the hell he was the entire time he was there. Didn't feel like a doctor, and he always stood all alone, a fair distance away from everyone else, all while gazing out the window. I had dubbed him Mr. Nozomi in my head, though that wasn't his actual name or anything.
Nozomi.
Wait. Nozomi. Wait a minute. Wasn't that name on the questionnaire? The man in the suit always had a badge on his chest, no matter what the situation. And on that badge was the word Nozum. Oh, it looked like a logo to me, though, so it probably wasn't a name tag. Oh, I knew why it was bothering me now. That test from 4 also had the Nozumi logo printed on it. I had a hunch that I'd seen it somewhere before, and now I finally remembered exactly where. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my chest. That aside, what was Nozumi anyway? I was pretty sure it was the name of a business.
のぞみさんっていう美人女社長が設立したカウンターテロ組織とか、漫画みたいだ。
You say that out loud? Whatever. When I arrived at my base, I had gone straight to look up Nozomi online. There were so many results that I couldn't manage to pin down anything specific. Well, let's go with a more normal theory first, that Nozomi guy could have been from the company that made the tests. He was just at the hospital in order to sell them or something. The hospital had then adopted the tests recently, and they decided to have me fill one out today. Nah, I doubted that. I'd never heard of some rando attending a patient's examination like that. So who the hell was that Mr. Nozomi guy? Memories kept pulling at my mind, but I was fed up with it at that point. Either way, the reason behind my deja vu was now clear. I decided that I'd ask Dr. Takashima about my memory issues next week. But until then, I was going to stay cooped up in my room without bothering with school. There's no way in hell I'd go to a school where people were trying to hurt me. Oh, honestly, I really don't want to screw up the minimum attendance chart I'd so carefully constructed, but it wasn't worth getting myself killed over. Gave up on my Nozomi search and went to look for any interesting looking threads on X channel. News board was almost completely filled with Nugent thread. Even the ESO board had threads like, let's try and replicate Nugent crimes in ESO, and to be honest, I was beyond sick and tired of the whole thing. Diving back into ESO, I found Grim. Let's go. That channel news board is super fucking boring recently. Really won't shut the fuck up about Nugent. It is the biggest thing I've noticed recently. When a new incident like this happens, people always freak the fuck out about it. Shitstorm and carnage. They still haven't caught the culprit. I mean, you and I both know the police are incompetent, lol. There are tons of videos all over the web painting the culprit as some moe hot trick, lol. That demon girl. The desolate eyes of the girl I'd seen at the crucifixion murder scene flashed through my mind, and I felt a shiver ran down my spine. As much as I didn't want to remember, that ghastly memory would come back any time I let my guard down. Wait, I'd seen the culprit's face. I knew who they were. I wish I reported to the police, but I didn't want to get involved. Demon girl. Is there already an offshoot of the perp like that? that might be taking it a bit too far, to be honest. Anyway, the way these new gen cases are seriously interesting, dude. I've joined the Fairy Power new gen community. I'm getting way too into this. But he insists and from our guild has joined. God, was he serious? Wouldn't be able to cop on and chat with my guild anymore. You're just some weird shit, man. Gives me the chills. I knew you were into gory stuff, Grim, but don't tell me you're the type that looks for artistic merit in murder cases. True is that crucifixion, of course, could have easily been mistaken for modern art, so it'd be fair to say that it was artistic in some sense. The only thing you should be seeing here is how lewd it is. It's like the ultimate form of BDSM. What the fuck? This guy's hopeless. I'd better do something quick. You'll get it once you leave behind your virginhood Nightheart ton. You lily bastard. Are you saying you're not a virgin? You damn traitor. Back on topic, though. The site pulling all the info together is filled to the brim, so you really ought to take a look. Oh, I really didn't want to look. I was scared, too. I wanted to escape the reality in which I'd witnessed the scene of the crime. That's why I'd been intently avoiding all info related to Nugent ever since then. I wanted to fool myself into believing that the gruesome scene I'd seen had been just an illusion, but it's basically a god in you, so not just someone strong, but someone who knew all. Not to mention I was the guild leader. It'd be beyond embarrassing if the organizer of the group couldn't keep up with the latest topics. I had to make sure that didn't happen. I clicked the link to the site Grim had sent me. The top of the site had the title "All Things New Gen" written in big letters in the center of the page. This type of website was basically like a wiki. It was open to the public, and anyone could enter info related to a particular topic. I see. In the case of this new gen site, loads of people entered info concerning new gen, and the site updated as they did. Sites like it tended to suffer from unreliable info being mixed in, as well as its fair share of vandalism from trolls. They could still be pretty useful for getting a quick overview of an incident. Exactly. Many links were pasted all over the page. I promptly clicked on the link that read "Current Timeline." My heart raced. Just reading the site was making me nervous. My palms were slick with sweat. The first incident, dubbed the group dive, was the suicide of 5 high schoolers that had jumped to their deaths. It had happened in the dead of night on September 7th, which was about a month ago at this point. The building they had jumped off of was Cornelius Tower, which was located in Shibuya. They dove off the rooftop helipad. Of course, all 5 had died instantly. According to the autopsies, the 5 all had foreign pieces of flesh under their fingernails, along with various scratch marks on their hands. Based on that, it was surmised that the 5 had been holding hands as they jumped, for one reason or another. There was no suicide note of any form on the rooftop. A person online, one of these people was acting like Snake, had actually gone to Cornelius Tower themselves and reported that the door to the roof had a sign on it saying "No entry to unauthorized personnel," and it was locked practically 24/7. Snake! Snake! Metal Gear! It is often referenced on the internet when an ordinary person is conducting anonymous or secret investigations. For example, during an operation, one of these individuals might say, "There's a snake. I've infiltrated the building." Doing my best to David Hayter impression. Naturally, the door had been locked at the time of the incident, and the key was not found among the belongings of the deceased. Essentially, the rooftop helipad had effectively been a locked room, and the method the five had used to enter was completely unknown. There was a very high chance that someone other than the five had been present at the scene of the incident. The second incident, dubbed the man-child murder case, had occurred 12 days after the first incident, placing it on September 19th. Early in the morning, a university student on their way home from a karaoke session had discovered a collapsed man covered in blood by the Shibuya Station underpass. The victim was a university student residing in Shibuya Ward, a 21-year-old named Konoe Tizuo. He was already dead when he was discovered, but his abdomen had an unnatural, very large swelling. According to the autopsy, someone had performed an abdominal incision on the man, stuffed a newly born fetus inside the man's stomach, then stitched it back up. Moreover, a DNA test confirmed that the fetus had no blood relation to the victim. The victim was a bachelor and had no relations with any women. There's only online speculation, but it was assumed that the 32-week-old fetus had been removed from its mother's body via C-section. However, the mother's identity, current whereabouts, and even whether or not she was alive was completely unknown. It was possible that the police had already discovered her whereabouts, but if they had, nothing had been publicly revealed. Oof. I averted my eyes from the monitor to keep myself from throwing up. Jesus Christ. Talking about nauseating. The culprit was completely insane, and maybe, just maybe, these ghastly murders had been carried out by that girl. Japan is over. I stared at Serotan in an attempt to bleach my eyes. And with that, I somehow managed to stabilize my mental state. I considered taking the meds that the doctor had given me, but Serotan did the job nonetheless. Anyway, while that might have been necessary to maintain Neidhart's honor, reading all that gory stuff really fucking sucked.
そんなに辛いならさ、読まなくていいって。タッキーがド M ってなら別に止めないけど、辛そうなタッキーは見てられないさ。もうやめよう。楽しいことだけしてようよ。いつもみたく私にハーハーしてもいいからさ。
Oh, how wonderful and caring you are, Serotan. Serotan was the only one who would stay by my side. I couldn't ask for a better waifu. I rested my chin on my hands above the table, watching Serotan smile as I took deep breaths. My soul had been healed. I'd be able to get through a little more if I kept glancing at her as I read. And so I decided to put that into practice right away. Come to think of it, why had those two unrelated cases both been slapped with the Nugent label? Apparently the group dive had initially been treated as a group suicide. But after the man-child incident occurred, people online reinvestigated it and discovered the unnatural circumstances surrounding the scene of the crime. Rumors then began to appear, saying that the five may have actually been killed and that the suicide label was merely a cover-up. According to the parents and good friends of the five victims, there was no way it could have been suicide. Then the mass media started making connections between the two incidents, starting with where they occurred, Shibuya. Madness explodes in today's youth and the new generation madness. Sensationalist headlines like that had started popping up everywhere, to my understanding anyway. Then came the third case, the murder case I'd witnessed, dubbed the crucifixion. The site didn't have as much info on this case, likely due to it having only occurred recently. The victim, 56-year-old Oda Hisashi, was a university professor who had been crucified with stakes to the concrete wall of a vacant house. That was all that had been publicly revealed. Many of the neighboring residents had claimed that for over an hour after the time the crime was thought to have occurred, around 8 p.m., they could hear the sound of nails being hammered into something. Even I had heard this sound. I could hear it even now. A horrible, terrifying sound. On a related note, no connection between the third case and the group dive or the man-child had been discovered yet. But what with it being the third abnormal incident to have been in a quick succession in Shibuya, the crucifixion was naturally treated as another Nugent incident. The police and mass media believed that all the crimes had different culprits, but the predominant opinion online, rather what most of the net hoped was going on, was that the crimes either shared a single culprit or an organized group of culprits. There were many occult-based theories whispered about online, such as that everything had begun with an earthquake from 2 months ago. 2 months ago, an earthquake with a seismic intensity of 3 occurred, with Shibuya as its epicenter. Although the scale was fairly minor, there were still 8 fatalities, which became a popular topic of discussion. Come to think of it, it was true that the Nugent cases had begun after that earthquake. Because of that, the Nugent cultists had argued that the 8 deaths in the earthquake should be counted as the first Nugent incident, causing a dispute between them and the Nugent mainstreamers. Regardless, the entire situation was abnormal. After all, despite the fact that 3 brutal cases had occurred in quick succession, no clues on any of their culprits had been found, and many online were waiting eagerly for a 4th case. If I wasn't directly connected to it all, I probably would have joined in on the cast myself, posted in a few threads, made a few theories. I could have been waiting silently for the 4th incident at this very moment. Damn it, all these assholes were just having the time of their lives, weren't they?
犯人を早く捕まえてくれよ。
A week had passed since the crucifixion, but neither the demon girl nor the police had made any moves. If they knew that I'd been at the scene of the crime, they would definitely come and question me about it. There hadn't been any signs of that actually happening. Thank God. It looked like I wasn't going to get dragged into this after all.
あなたには予知能力がありますか?
That claim Yua had thrust at me flashed into my
予
mind.
知能力があるって思わなきゃ納得できないような画像データをあなたが持っていたから。
Even though I'd finally started to relax, that feeling of despair came flying right back in an instant. The image was sent by a Shogun. The data was still on my PC. Yua's claims were no more than delusions she dreamt up. Her deductions were a total stretch, not to mention logically bankrupt. While I might have ended up not asking about it in the hospital today, the idea of me doing things without remembering them was completely absurd, utterly impossible. I mean, nothing like that had ever happened to me before. So the gory image was obviously faked.
だったらさ、合成だって証拠を見つけちゃえばいいさ。あの画像解析しちゃおうよ。
But it's so disgusting. I really don't want to look at it any more than I already have.
あの女を論破しちゃえば、タッキーはもう怯えることなく平穏な生活に戻れるんだよ。やるしかないっしょ。
Of course, she was exactly right. Yua had talked to me as if I were the culprit behind the crucifixion. That it wasn't true at all. I mean, I'd seen the culprit's face, as if I'd let Yua put the blame on me after that. So, with a gulp, I double-clicked on the folder where the images were cached. Oh. It was the first time in 3 days that upon Yasuji had set foot in the Shibuya police station conference room. I figured these were police officers. The investigation meeting for the Maruya Macho staking homicide case had already begun, and Ban was greeted with universal gazes of displeasure for his tardiness. Ban forced a polite smile before bending down to sit. He supposed that it was not quite the right time to reveal that he had been cooped up in the bathroom with diarrhea. Fair. I would say that's fair. That's a fair excuse to be late. The Maruya Macho seeking homicide case had been assigned to the Shibuya police station on the morning after the incident. As they were lacking in manpower due to the Cornelius Tower mass suicide case and the Shibuya station undergrad and fetus homicide case, even the third-rate assistant inspector, Ban, whom the Metropolitan Police Department's investigation division were practically begging to retire, had been called in by the main office. Moreover, as all the incidents had occurred within the Shibuya police station's jurisdiction, it was an unusual situation in which a single jurisdictional station was utilizing 3 special investigation teams. Because of this, operations were made quite difficult, with 3 investigation teams having access to only one large conference room they had to alternate between. The mass media was hailing it all as one large case known as Nugent, and there were rumors that the police would combine 3 investigation teams in order to make a Nugent investigation division that is solving the issue of manpower. All the detectives found this prospect completely asinine, regarding it as nothing more than an absolute joke. Bond's superior, Inspector Matsunaga, who was in charge of the investigation team, called out to Bond with a piercing gaze. But Bond did not notice this. He simply continued to cool himself down with a handheld fan as he took a moment to recuperate.
聞いているのか？呼ばれてるっすよ。バンさんの報告待ちなんすから。ちょっと。
The whispers of Bond's partner, a rookie named Suwa, finally got him to realize he was being called.
すんません。報告はスワから。
自分っすか？
俺がいなくても報告しとけって言っといたろうが。早くしろ。
Suwa sighed as his superior jabbed him in the elbow and stood up straight and tall.
犯行現場近くの監視カメラの解析がようやく出たっす。出ました。犯行時間に不審な人物が映ってました。
Members echoed throughout the conference room. The relaxed atmosphere from before had been turned on its head. The other detectives began to take frantic notes in order to not miss a single word of Suwa's report. Considering the situation, it was no surprise they were so frantic about it. After all, 3 horrific cases had occurred within their jurisdiction in the span of a single month, only one of which was not ruled as a homicide as of yet. Their strong determination to find the culprit, even in the face of their reputations, was only natural.
プロジェクターに映像を出します。
Aww. As per the instructions Bond had given him in advance, Suwa had the projector display the footage on the projector screen. The projector showed an image of the confirmed filthy back alley of Maruya Macho. It was night, and there were very few streetlights present, so virtually nothing was visible.
犯行現場から約50メートル離れたところにあるコインパーキングの監視カメラです。
The parking lot was only big enough to fit 2 vehicles. It was a tiny plot of land interposed between 2 buildings, and it was constructed without any real care as well. The scene of the crime was not visible in the footage. Not even the path leading to it could be seen. All displayed was the road that was one farther away from the crime scene. The video had no sound. The time the video had been recorded was graciously displayed at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, 9:34 p.m.
犯行現場近隣の住民の証言により、21時過ぎから21時半頃まで釘を打ちつける音がしていたというのはご承知の通りだと思いますが、この映像は21時34分、つまりまさに犯行時間直後ということになります。 不審人物が映っているのは21時34分53秒からおよそ6秒間です。駐車場の前の道を奥から手前へと走り抜けていきます。
Huh. Hey, there's Takumi! Well, he's involved now. So much for him not wanting to be involved. Immediately following Sua's explanation, a silhouette appeared on the footage. He seemed to be in a great hurry and ran from the back of the screen to the front. As the resolution was quite poor, not even their gender could be ascertained at a glance, but Bond had already gotten the crime laboratory to analyze that very point.
科捜研で解析した結果、映っている人物は男。年齢は10代後半から20代とのことっす。です。
Ah! Kansai? Kansai? Does he have a Kansai accent? Or something?
人相の判別までは無理でした。服装がかなり特徴的ですが、これは小島にある私立水明学園の男子制服と分かりました。
Shit.
それと、右手に注目してもらいたいんですが。
Ah, shit. The image enlarged on the right hand of the suspicious individual. It appeared to be grasping something. Ah, shit. Fuck. Oh no.
スローで再生するとわかるが、走りながら腕を振っている際、この握りしめている何かが駐車場の照明に反射して光を放ってるんだな、これが。
Ah, shit. Now at the good part, Bond took over Sua's explanation.
形状からして犯行に使われた十字架型の杭である可能性がある。
Oh no. The detectives continue to murmur noisily. A staking homicide culprit may be a high schooler. The proposition was fairly shocking to them. After all, it meant that new generation madness moniker that mass media had been pushing could actually become a reality.
最も犯人に近い人物がこの少年だということか。
まあ、そういうことになりますね。
Yeah, Bond stroked the stubble on his jaw. It was a habit of his. Whenever he felt one step closer to cornering a culprit, he would always reach for that satisfying scraping sensation.
以上です。
With a great exhale, Sua sat down.
ひどいっすよ、先輩。美味しいところ持ってって。
Ignoring Sua's grumbling, Bond once again burned the image of the high school boy into his mind.
ようやく尻尾を出したんだ。そいつを掴んで離さねえようにしないとな。
Well then. Ah! Sure enough, the image Shogun had sent was in my cache folder. 168491.jpg was its name. Obviously, a part of me was still hesitant to even look at it. I mean, it was a pretty fucking nasty image. Grotesque as all hell, too. I was sure just seeing it would throw me right back to the scene of the crucifixion. That violent scene had taken place right in front of me. But even then, I needed to expose you as flawed logic, and therefore guarantee my own safety and innocence. Thankfully, since Serotonin was there for me, I could handle a little bit of gore. Mustering all the courage I had, I double-clicked the file. God, it was so gory, but compared to the crucifixion scene I had seen in person, it wasn't quite as bad. Telling myself that the image had to be fake, I was just barely able to stomach it. When I first received the image, I had closed it immediately after looking at it once. I hadn't inspected it thoroughly. This time, holding back the urge to vomit, I decided to examine the image in excruciating detail. I didn't know much about how to tell whether a picture was fake or not, but taking a look at the shadows, seeing if there was anything off about the surrounding area, and other stuff like that, should probably be enough. The only possibility I had in mind was that the photo had been taken in advance. The crucifixion corpse had then been put on top of it using CGI. Then, the day after Shogun had sent the picture to me, they'd executed the crime exactly as they'd edited in the image. Thanks to the poor resolution and how dark the image was, I could only really see the stakes, leaving the identity of the victim unclear. The light was only hitting the area surrounding the corpse, yet something about the image was just begging for me to look at the crucifixion itself. I felt like that was the intent of the person who'd made it. I mean, come on, focusing that much light around the corpse was kind of overkill, don't you think? Well, it wasn't like I'd been paying close attention to the actual crime scene, so I couldn't really jump to conclusions. In the picture, the demon girl wasn't standing in front of the crucified corpse. And then I opened my eyes wide and looked even closer. I noticed a silhouette in a dark spot on the left side of the image. Really? I do see that, yeah. I almost completely missed it. Due to the low res of the image, the shadow of the figure stood and blended perfectly into the surrounding scenery. You could easily miss it if you weren't paying close attention. Obviously, the image was fake, but what if the person who had taken the photo had accidentally left themselves in it? It was possible that they'd forgotten to edit themselves out when they tampered with the image. Looked like they were wearing a Tsunemi uniform. In that case, it had to be the demon girl. She had been wearing one at the time of the crime after all. But when I took a closer look, I noticed that the figure's hair was actually pretty short. It was you! Oh no. Demon girl had long hair, like Yua. Alright, then, time for some computer magic. I needed the details here. I opened up some image processing software and dragged the image in. Then, with a big gulp, I selected the levels option on the adjustments menu. I brightened one darkened corners of the image. I mean, that's not particularly how that works, I think, but I guess, sure, why not? Well, then again, if it's... whatever. What the hell? That is you! And you're running away. Pictured on the screen was unmistakably... How was it me? Didn't make any sense. I'd never even been there before September 29th. It was fake. It had to be fake. I couldn't find any bit of proof that it was, but it absolutely had to be. Nothing made sense any otherwise. I mean, Shogun had sent the image on the 28th, and the crucifixion murder case had occurred on the 29th. The image was of what had happened on the 29th, and that would mean was a picture taken from the future. Got a D-mail. No, I didn't. Aw. I kicked the plastic bottle at my feet and closed the paint program. I checked the file's properties to see when it was made, and then I lost all words. The timestamp was the 28th, but that was the least of my worries now. The comment section of the properties menu was a single inconspicuous sentence. A sentence my eyes couldn't look away from. Whose eyes are those eyes? I knew it! I had that ready in my head right as I was finishing that sentence. I slammed my hands on the keyboard before shoving it to the edge of my desk. I clutched my head. I could barely hold back my tears. What the hell had I done to deserve a whole week of nothing but more and more insane bullshit? Why was I the only one that had to deal with this shit? Hang on a second. If they had somehow managed to get a photo of me, and then they'd edited it into the image of the crime scene, it would either mean Shogun had taken a photo of me without my consent, or that he had somehow obtained my photo from another source. Considering how he'd suddenly entered the chat room and started talking to me right after Grim had left, he had likely been aiming for me and me alone from the very start. Shogun might very well have discovered my real identity. I was truer than Shogun, the demon girl. Anyone could raid my base at any moment. I'd be abducted. I felt a chill on the nape of my neck. It was the gaze again. There was something there, watching me. Don't look at me. Did you really think I'd turn around? I knew the rules of the game better than anyone. It'll take more than that. Fear sent goosebumps all over my body. I felt a stronger urge to check that the door was locked. But instead of doing that, I just continued to stare at my monitor, because I was way too stubborn to let myself lose. Unable to calm down, I opened my default word processor trying to work down everything on my mind. Clean your frickin' desktop, man. As I stared fearfully at the word demon, I began to wonder if the girl at the crime scene was actually a real demon. I mean, come on, she couldn't be human by any means. If she was a demon, she might actually be able to see the future. If she could see the future, projecting a scene from the future onto a picture via psychic photography would be child's play. It would line up perfectly with how she'd somehow managed to carry out the gruesome crucifixion all on her own. She'd then gotten her underling Shogun to send the image to me, a person who she knew would end up accidentally witnessing the crime scene. I didn't know why she'd done that. Maybe it was a threat. This will be you next if you tell anyone what you saw. Or maybe it was a death sentence. You're next. And if that really was what it meant, then...
勝てるわけがない。僕は奴らにいつ殺されてもおかしくないんだ。
Oh, here we go. Kusunoki Yua faced the PC in her room. Her profile gravely serious, she swiftly read through the information displayed on the monitor. Before long, Yua let out a small sigh and released her hand from the mouse, glancing at a piece of paper sitting within reach of her. It was the very same paper she had put before Nishijo Takumi the day before, the printout of the chat log between Nightheart and Shogun.
Nishijo-kun.
Yua muttered a single name. The view of Takumi sitting alone on that Chodo Park bench appeared in her mind before she quickly shook her head to drown it out. Suddenly, she looked behind herself in surprise.
今、誰かに見られていたような。
Whose eyes are those eyes? Oh boy. You can feel the gaze too. Her gaze stopped upon a large stuffed Goro froggy and trod on her bed. Wondering if it had just been her imagination, she tilted her head in puzzlement. Then she slowly rose to her feet, walked over to her bed, and fell onto it headfirst. The sheets smelled of the sun. It seemed that her mother had kindly dried the futon earlier today. Yua buried her face in that relieving scent, her gaze wandering about vacantly. Her room was very neat and orderly, placing her meticulous personality on full display. This especially applied to her large bookshelf, which was rather incongruous for a room sized at around 13 square meters. It was packed tightly with countless books, leaving hardly any gaps. However, charmingly, the lower shelf consisted of nothing but complex academic books, computing-related books, and other similar material, contrasting greatly with the upper half, which was filled with shoujo, manga, and anime DVDs. Hey, she wasn't lying about liking anime at all. With another sigh, Yua turned her body face up and stared at the ceiling.
DID.
What? Dissociative identity disorder, a condition in which a single person has more than one personality. A personality is defined as a continuous pattern of engaging with one's environment while being aware of the environment, and there you go. In other words, a human being's ego represents itself by recognizing the continuous passage of time, confirming the directions, and subsequently received information are consistent, and from there is themselves. Personality change in DID is sudden and can be triggered by psychological stress, social stress, and as well as various other environmental factors. The disorder is characterized by many cases in which the different personalities do not retain the same memories. The age of onset is in early childhood, but it may not always be clinically apparent. It is easier for the disorder to become chronic should the patient have experienced some form of childhood abuse or psychological trauma. It was first referred to as multiple personality disorder in the DSM-3 by the American Psychiatric Association, and while the name may be commonplace, it has not been used since the DSM-4. Naruhodo. She muttered the name of the mental illness she had just been researching. An explanation related to it was still displayed on her monitor.
辛いんですね。
Aww. Yua hugged the stuffed Goro froggy on her by her pillow tightly as she thought about Takumi.
でも、私、
However, her expression soon vanished, replaced only by the gritting of her teeth. Back to Takumi! Let's go. It hurt to breathe. All I was doing was looking things up on my PC, yet it hurt to breathe. I could feel my heart pounding harder than it ever had before. And, of course, the feeling that something was watching me would not go away. I was still just barely keeping myself from turning around, but I knew that I couldn't do it for much longer. I cried out angrily at whatever it was. Surely it wasn't the demon girl, right? Oh god, what if it was? She could be using second sight or clairvoyance or some other demonic power to spy on me. Psychic ability that allows a person to see far beyond normal human perception. With this power, what is normally impossible to see with the naked eye due to distance, angle, obstructions, etc., can be perceived. The power can manifest in many ways, such as simply enhancing one's natural vision, or seeing distant things in the form of still images. The chills on the back of my neck were gradually growing stronger, to the point where they were getting slightly painful, like jolts of electricity coursing through my body. I was covered from head to toe in sweat. The front of my t-shirt was completely soaked. Unable to take it anymore, I whipped around in my chair as forcefully as I could. Yet, all I saw was my room. The same condition as always. I didn't see a single thing that shouldn't have been there. With a yell that was closer to a shriek than anything, I burst up from my chair and went to make sure the door was locked. And much to my relief, it was. I wiped away the sweat on my forehead with my sleeve. Returning to my PC, I focused on the monitor once more. It was still displaying what I had been researching earlier, precognition. When I was a kid, I truly believed that precognition existed, that psychics existed, and if I was being completely honest, I still did to a degree. That's why my first thought had been that the image from Shogun and the demon girl was a precognitive photograph, a thought which only drove me to look into it all the more. What the fuck? What if, maybe, just maybe, there were tons of psychics all over the world and I just didn't know? What the fuck is that wiki name, though? What the fuck? Encyclopedia of Useless Knowledge. Let's go! Useless knowledge! Back when I was a kid, when that bus accident had happened, I'd mastered something that had been pretty close to precognition. For that reason, I couldn't completely rule out its existence. But no matter how much I searched, all I could find was extremely dubious articles about the occult, voodoo shit, or whatever else. There was absolutely nothing that proved scientifically whether it existed or not.
一つぐらいあってもいいだろう。
Growing increasingly frustrated, I violently tapped away at the keyboard. I couldn't deal with how anxious not having a concrete answer made me. Also delusional. Was the world really telling me to give up? To wait here, trembling in fear of demons that might or might not come. I couldn't stay sane like that. Of course, I would have vastly preferred to learn that precognition didn't exist, but regardless of what the truth was, I needed to know it badly. Pretty out of options, I decided to take a look at Channel's occult board. The place was typically home to nothing but total BS noise, lies, and misinformation mainly. But I actually had some pretty mind-blowing and even useful information scattered on it sometimes. Biting back how frantic I was, I opened up Ant Channel. Then I clicked on the occult board and gave precognition a search. When I did... oh. Fess. Hey ho. Hey ho, Fess. Phantasm. Hey ho. Phantasm General Nugent. Precognition and prophecies. Usually predicting the future of Japan. Precognition thread number 6. There were dudes who want Fest 10, the queen of precognition, to kick their shit in. Fest precognition discussion. Phantasm. Fuck Phantasm thread number 11. More like superstition. What do you guys think of Phantasm's prophetic songs? They're precognition, in my opinion. Oh, Phantasm are literal murderers pretending to have precognition. Part 5. You've had precognitive dreams, get your ass in this thread. Trolls, get the fuck out. Fly off to your Fess's prophecies of precognition IRL, Part 3. Huh? My search pulled up a surprising number of threads, about 30 of them. Is precognition a hot topic on that channel at the moment? With a gulp, I checked the thread titles one by one.
Phantasm. FES.
FES. Most of the threads contained those two key words. In addition, Gen discussion had also wormed its way in, with lots of unsettling terms like prophetic lyrics and murderer being used. Having never heard of Phantasm before, I went to Google them. Apparently, they were a Shibuya-based 4-piece gothic punk band that had been doing live concerts recently. They were so popular, in fact, that they were completely dominating the indie music scene, with a female vocalist known only as FES. Anyway, to check whether it was related to precognition or not, I clicked on the thread at the top title, Precognition Prophecies, Phantasm General, New Gen 43, and gave it the contents a brief skim. Counter tits, everyone. But yeah, let's all go to the concert Sunday. Those who do will enjoy FES Sama's Black Mass without letting any of it go to waste. Miss out and you'll be getting the crucifixion treatment of Limifel. I heard the lyrics, but it still feels like a stretch. The phrasing is vague as shit. There's no way any are actual prophecies. If I'm wrong, though, have mercy on me, crucifixion plural. Calling it a precognition or a prophecy or whatever the fuck is taking it way too far, Lamau. This ain't Nostradamus, so how about we just sit back and enjoy the music for what it is? Also known as the Witch's Sabbath. The ritual is performed by satanic cults. Although it is referred to as the Sabbath, it is the exact opposite of the masses held by the Catholic Church. When the Black Mass begins, the devil appears in the form of a giant goat. It is said that the witches then kiss the goat's buttocks, drink the blood of infants instead of wine, read aloud grimoires, and perform various impure acts. One theory states that the whole concept is nothing but a delusion crafted and perpetrated by sexually repressed priests and theologians in order to suppress heretics. FES's stuff ain't bad lyrically, but I definitely can feel the New Gen connection, to be honest. Aaron always talks about FES, rip the composer, Rio. Poor guy's getting no credit, FES Town. FES Town's lyrics force me to find the meaning of life. It's a trap. FES Stars are total shitters now. Where's the fuck is this sheep? Where is this sheep thing? Oh well. Well, to be honest, I want to be insulted by FES summon that chill voice of hers while she grinds her boots in my ass. Over and over until it feels like my eyes are gonna fall out of their sockets. It feels so intoxicating to stop on the edge. Right at the last moment, it's so erotic as I wonder if she'll spit on her face or not. No matter what you think, I want FES to just take a knife and cut open my throat and end my life. I want to breathe my last breath as she says to me, "You're an eyesore." FES is my waifu. Jesus Christ, that guy. Take that to the BSM thread. Also, FES is my waifu, actually. Stop bumming this shit. So what do you guys mean by New Gen prophecy stuff? A servant revealed by the light of the moonlit night. Connect the phantasmal paths which will lead to this place. Little do they know, their screams will soon turn to silence, and repose shall fall upon us as we link hand in hand within the wind. Aww. By the way, say fuck Phantasm. Like, somehow their fans are terrifying. You'd think they were all brainwashed. The use of violent methods to forcibly reconstruct someone's thoughts or principles. Brainwashing is performed by applying intense external pressure via physical methods or psychological methods. It is a method of mental reconstruction that is even stronger than mind control. Well, now you're gonna get it. Don't leak the lyrics, dumbass. What a brainless troll. Those lyrics. Depending on how you interpreted them, it could be seen as referring to the group dive. Oh, true. True, actually. Yet those lyrics had been released 2 months ago, which meant they hadn't been written after the group dive. Could just be a coincidence, or could Phantasm be yet another one of those demon girls' underlings? I read the thread in more detail, only to find out that each of the 3 New Gen incidents had all been prophesied by Phantasm's lyrics. However, the lyrics for the songs that supposedly prophesied the man-child and crucifixion incidents had not been posted on at channel. Apparently, uploading them online was viewed as a taboo of sorts. The philosophy seemed to be, if you really want to know, just go to the concerts and buy an album yourself. Regardless, there were a great number of people online trying to predict the next New Gen case based on the songs Phantasm had performed thus far. And apparently, ever since New Gen kicked off, Phantasm's albums had been completely selling out. It had been so successful, in fact, that even the mainstream media had picked up on it. Gothic band boasting cult following rises among the youth of Shibuya. News stories like that were popping up all over the place. The one writing the lyrics was the head singer, FES. Nobody knew her real name. What if FES was actually the demon girl? No. She was. It would explain how she'd managed to prophesize the incidents several months before they'd occurred. The demon girl was the culprit after all. I tried doing an image search, but I couldn't find any good photos of her face. All the pictures were taken by phones during her concerts, and they were so blurry that I couldn't even begin to make out her face. I wet my sweat-drenched forehead with the hem of my shirt. I was frustrated. I was scared. I couldn't even believe anything. I didn't even want to see anything. Several emotions were swirled within me, suffocating me. My breathing hadn't even come close to stabilizing this entire time. But even so, I knew one thing for certain. I needed to see FES's face. With trembling fingers, I typed in Phantasm's name and clicked on their official website. The site was mostly black, decorated only by text of a uniform deep crimson color. It was unrelenting in its simplicity, and yet felt so incredibly eerie and strange. There was barely anything on the site at all, just basic information on their concerts and discography. There wasn't even a single image. There were no profiles on the band members or anything on their song lyrics.
やっぱり犯人だけあってネットに顔写真が流出しないようにしてるのか。
Talk about it thorough. I took a look at their performance schedule and saw that they typically performed it about every other week. Their next concert was...
あさって。
If I went to it, I'd be able to check whether FES was the demon girl or not, but even if I did find out they were one and the same, what would I even do? Report FES to the police? Bring a crucifix and attempt a mock exorcism? Try and beg for her to leave me alone. And then this last one. Yeah, none of those were gonna happen. I was up against a demon. There was no way in hell an otaku freak like me could come out on top. Problem is, if I didn't, I'd die. She'd transform my corpse into her newest art piece, and I'd be posted on the All Things New Gen site as yet another case.
そんなのやだ。
But if I didn't do something, I'd never find out what that picture of me that Shogun had sent really meant. And on the off chance that FES wasn't connected to the demon girl, maybe I could ask her to help me fight against whoever the demon girl actually was.
だけどやっぱり無理だ。ライブなんて行けるわけがない。
I'd never been to one in my life. That sort of thing was infinitely beyond my comfort zone. Not to mention, concert halls were cramped and dark and noisy and crowded. Just imagining a place like that made me want to hurl. I was at my wit's end. I had no idea what to do. The chills on the back of my neck still hadn't gone away. The painful, prickling sensation suddenly turned into a burning one. I looked behind me yet again, but like always, nobody was there.
もうやめてよ。
I closed my eyes tightly, focusing on nothing other than waiting for the gaze to disappear. I didn't want to go through this torment for the rest of my life. For all I knew, the gaze would straight up kill me someday.
考えろ、匠。僕にできることを考えろ。
Hiding in the shadow of a telephone pole, I looked at the gigantic concert hall from afar. After organizing over it all day yesterday, I somehow managed to nut up and did what needed to be done. So here I was. Gigantus? Oh. It was located on a narrow street in Shibuya, beneath the elevated railroad tracks. It had a very distinct red brick exterior. The exterior was lit up too, giving off an old-fashioned, austere vibe. It made it feel as if I'd been transported back in time to the 50s or something. To think that a spot like this was in Shibuya of all places, I had no idea it even existed until yesterday. It was only 5 minutes from the station on foot, if there weren't very many people at all. Every once in a while, a train would pass over the elevated tracks with a tremendous roar. And the telephone pole I was hiding behind would tremble slightly, but that was about it. Just a moment ago, there had been a bunch of what appeared to be Phantasm fans in front of Gigantus. Some of them were wearing outfits so out there I'd almost mistaken them for cosplayers. However, what surprised me the most was that there honestly weren't that many of them. Despite being such a huge topic online, there must have been no more than 100 people there. Regardless, they were all inside the building now. concert had already begun, but since some of the audience managed to bleed outside, it certainly didn't feel like it. My heart's palpitations had gone away after I'd fallen asleep yesterday, but they'd come back with a vengeance the second I'd arrived in front of the venue. It had been so hard to breathe, I'd almost thought I was dealing with some kind of heart failure. But really, I knew exactly why it was so bad. This place was filled with a thick, impenetrable darkness. The demon girl and her underlings could be lurking around any corner. Knowing that, I'd been on the lookout for anyone that might attack me ever since I got here. The sheer anxiety, paranoia was comparable to what it felt like going through the Wan's volcano dungeon in ESO. Mobs in the Wan's volcano dungeon were OP as hell, and it was surrounded by the kind of lava that instantly killed you if you so much clipped it with your pinky toe. That shit couldn't have been play-tested. The amounts of times I died there, holy hell. I wiped the sweat off my forehead with a hand towel and gulped down a goblet of saliva. Right as I did, the door at the top of the stairs opened and a furious beating of drums reverberated from inside Gigantus for a few seconds. A single guy exited from the door. He jogged nimbly down the stairs and then toward me. Huh?
Yo,
Misumi! Misumi! I had invited Misumi-kun to go to the venue with me, as I didn't know his phone number. I had been forced to go to school today just to ask him to go. If he hadn't come with me, I probably wouldn't have even made it this far. And even if I did somehow force myself to go into the building alone, I felt the demon girl was there. It would be a certified game over. If I had Misumi-kun operate as a scout, I did feel bad about throwing him into the line of fire. So I obviously hadn't told him about that part. The people I could rely on were him and Yanami. So I picked the less annoying of the two, Misumi-kun. I even covered his ticket cost, so in a sense you could say I'd hired him for 1,000 yen.
ほらよ、これ CD な。俺自分の分も買っちまったよ。
Misumi-kun handed me a Phantasm album. They were being sold for an outrageous premium in online auctions, but I'd heard on ad channel that they're also available at their concert, so I asked Misumi-kun to buy one for me. And now that I had one, I'd achieved half of the goals. I'd filled out for myself for the remaining half.
いやー、予想以上にいいな、ファンタズムって。
Misumi-kun had been acting pretty excited ever since he'd exited the venue.
俺、あんまミーハーになりたくなかったんで聞こうとしなかったんだけどよ。今日ちょっと生で聞いただけでファンになっちまった。
The other thing I'd asked Misumi-kun to do was report anything in particular that stood out about the band members. I knew they would all come out on stage once the concert started, so all I wanted him to do was a quick scan, then head back to me right after. Yet, despite my very specific instructions, he hadn't come back for a full 5 minutes after the show started. This was probably because he listened to the entirety of the first song.
特にボーカル。ありゃマジでいい女だぜ。お前、女見る目あるな。
I sighed internally, thinking with the wrong head like usual. Why was I even surprised? So much for I'm no sheep.
どんな人だった？
ああ、そっか。報告な。なんか探偵みてえで面白いな。そう思わね
え？ Misumi-kun grinned to himself and pressed him again to tell me about FES's appearance.
髪型はショートカットだった。
Okay. Yeah, that right there immediately means she's not the demon girl. And just like that, there was already a huge discrepancy. Did that mean FES wasn't the demon girl? No, I couldn't let myself jump to conclusions here. She could have cut her hair, or she could have used hair extensions, or she could have changed it in some other way. It wouldn't surprise me if she'd been in disguise when I'd seen her at the crime scene. Yeah.
スタイルがすっげえ良くて、あと背が高かったな。ありゃ俺と同じぐらいはあるんじゃねえの？
背が
And the same height as you. Misumi-kun and I were about the same height, which means FES was probably around 170 centimeters. Pretty tall for a girl. I hadn't gotten that impression at all when I encountered the demon girl. My eyes from back then were hazy, but I still felt that the demon girl had been shorter than me. You know, the thing that didn't line up then?
他には
そうだな。アンニュイな雰囲気してたな。声はクールってイメージかな。結構ボソボソと喋るタイプだった。胸のサイズはまあまあ。でもゴスパンの服は妙な色気があったぜ。ああいうのもありだな。断然あり。
Oh, god damn it. Every single word he said was completely fucking useless. Again, I'd only gotten a quick look at the demon girl, so I couldn't exactly list her features. This plan was probably doomed from the start.
っていうかよ、そんなにフェスに興味あるなら自分の目で見ればいいじゃねえか。ほら、行こうぜ。
Misumi-kun began to push me from behind, forcing me up the stairs to the Gigantus. I desperately tried to fight back when Misumi-kun was stronger than me. I couldn't get away.
見たいんだろ、フェスの顔を。素直になるって。浮気ってのは男の差がだよな。たくも大人になったもんだぜ。この前一緒に帰ってたメガネの子のことは今夜だけは気にすんなって。俺も田中のことは忘れるからよ。
What the hell was he talking about? I tried to stand my ground and fight back, but to my horror, I realized that I was already at the top of the stairs. I thought it was only the second floor half hour to slip and fall, it would hurt like hell. So the thought made me stop resisting as hard. In that moment of weakness, my entire body weight was sent crashing through the door and into the venue. Oh! The second I hit the inside, an explosion of sound blasted my eardrums. I'd never experienced something so loud before. Even the pit of my stomach was being forcibly shaken by the vibrations. It was so intense that it felt as if my entire body was being crushed to pieces. There were no seats in the venue. Everyone was standing up to watch. They were all rocking their bodies in rhythm with each other, shouting F-E-S, F-E-S, F-E-S as their fists shot up and down, shot up and down. Still nowhere near the level of a What a Guy performance, though. Unique cheer performance at a selection of fans enacted idol concerts and other live shows. Some performances include very intense physical movements, with each and every one of the movements having a specific name to them. Fans in an audience performing What a Guy, What a Gay, in a perfect coordination is a sight to behold. The heat was devastating. It made me want to vomit. I might have been an otaku, but I was definitely not the type to obsess over idols or voice actors. Honestly, I hated this kind of atmosphere. I could tell I stuck out like a sore thumb, but thankfully nobody was paying any attention to me. There were so many people in front of me I could barely see the stage at the far end of the room. Just the blinding stage lights and the faint figures of 4 people standing under them. And as I was getting overwhelmed by everything happening around me, Misumi-kun handed me a plastic cup of soda. It seemed like Misumi-kun had paid for my ticket too. I'd have to make sure to pay him back later. Before I knew it, the song was over. The audience clapped and cheered. Then, having seemingly calmed down a little, everyone brought down their fists. Thanks to that, the road to the stage finally opened up, and I was able to see it clearly. And I got a good look at the short-haired girl singing in the middle of the stage. She was definitely not the demon girl.
今日はいつもより調子いいわ。声がクリアに聞こえる。世界がとても澄んでいる。
The voice coming through the amp sounded nothing like the demon girl that had said those cryptic words to me. Misumi-kun was right. FES definitely had an aloof vibe to her. Despite her short hair, she didn't feel boyish. She gave off this mysterious aura with a mix of charm, lure, and a hint of distance. And to top it all off, the silver accessories she was wearing all glittered fantastically as they reflected the light. It felt like I was starting to understand why there were so many threads about her on that channel. In this kind of concert, I had always thought that the band members would be more energetic, but FES seemed incredibly indifferent during the intermission. She was pretty much the exact opposite of the excited audience. Maybe that was just the type of person she was. It seemed like the audience wasn't surprised by that. He just stayed silent during the break, listening closely to FES's words.
呼吸と性の門が閉じているからかもしれない。
Aww. Greek mythology, it is one of the two rivers located at the entrance to the underworld. The name translates to River of Lamentation. The dead cross this river in order to enter the underworld. Aw. I'm sorry, what? Cocytus. What language was she even speaking?
世界の均衡は大いなる意志が生まれてから数千年間保たれていた。でも今それは崩れつつある。とても不安で。だから私は歌うわ。君たちのカオスを受け入れてあげる。
Aww. Oh, I guess they were a goth punk band, so the band members probably had characters that they played. Maybe it was an easy way to win over the hearts of fans, just by some random nonsense that hinted that it might mean something, but giving it enough mystique to keep people engrossed. Speaking of mystique, FES was holding something strange in her hand. In her left hand was a plain old mic, but in the other, she was holding some sort of weirdly shaped mic stand. It looked kind of like a sword. It was shaped so elegantly it felt sinister. It looked so sharp that if you even so much as grazed it, it would slice your finger in two. It was huge, too. As tall as FES, in fact. There were also lines of glass embedded into it, which glowed with an ominous blue light. You couldn't tell if it was really a sword or not, but either way, it wasn't half bad as a character accessory. No complaints there. I was strangely captivated by it. Then, using only her right arm, FES casually lifted the huge mic stand. And with an underhanded grip, she swung it sideways. And the blue light from the glass drew a wide arc with its afterglow. What the hell? That was so dangerous. What if it hit someone in the crowd? That wasn't a mic stand. Could it be a sword? And every night, she would use it to cut the throat of some poor audience member, harvesting blood to offer to the demon girl or something. So was this concert actually some sort of black mass organized by a bunch of witches? A fierce chill ran down my spine just thinking about it. Goosebumps covered my entire body. I should really get out of here ASAP. But the moment I thought that, FES let out a gentle whisper. Uh-oh.
次は3曲目。密教の首飾り。
Huh? The crowd let out a huge cry of joy upon hearing that. A moment later, the members of Phantasm all started playing, and a sudden flood of sound poured into my ears. A thunderous roar came from the speakers, a roar that felt like it was going to blow out my eardrums. How had these people not gone deaf yet? Singing out in places like this all the time. Looking to my side, I noticed Yusumi-kun was fully into it, pumping his fist in sync with the rest of the audience. The intro ended, FES began to sing, and when I heard the lyrics, I swallowed hard. Oh. She was singing the prophetic song that had been posted all over our channel. It was a dark piece that didn't feel the slightest bit optimistic. And this melody felt like a religious psalm. The lyrics definitely didn't help. Everyone was getting riled up at first, but as the song went on, the excitement dropped further and further. By the end, everyone just stood there, not saying a word. But that was because everyone was fully lost in the sound. Some of them just stared at FES, completely entranced. There was definitely something about FES's singing voice that captivated people. Even as I battled fear and nausea in the middle of the crowd, I found myself listening very closely to her song, not wanting to miss it. Hold it. Alright. There we go. Alright. Goosebumps sprang up all over me for a moment. It felt like the air itself had frozen over. Aww. Well then, so the song ended. FES was looking down at the stage, swinging her body from side to side as she soaked in the last echoes of the music. And then she suddenly looked back up, and without even gazing around for a second, she instantly... Uh-oh. Looked at me. Uh-oh. It wasn't like she just glanced in the general direction of my eyes, or like she'd briefly made eye contact with me or anything like that. FES was blatantly looking right at me. I'd even go as far as to say she was staring at me, fixedly, as if evaluating my existence, as if searching deep within my heart. Her gaze was all too intense, and yet, somehow she seemed a little sad. Before I knew it, I was rushing outside. I ran down the stairs outside the right catches and crashed down on the bottom step. I tried my hardest to catch my breath and calm down, but to little avail. I really shouldn't have gone in there. My heart was pounding, my entire body was drenched in sweat.
おい、どうしたんだよ、タク。いきなり飛び出して。
Ha! Misumi-kun had followed me. He sounded upset.
もう出ちまうのかよ。これからさらに盛り上がりそうだったのに。で、どうだよ、フェスは。可愛かったろ。
Without looking up at him, I shook my head. Who cared about that? Sure, she was cute, but I wasn't into 3D girls. More than anything, those lyrics. I hadn't caught everything, but from the little I'd heard, there was no way they hadn't been talking about the new-gen cases. Of course, there was no definitive proof, but FES definitely knew something. I could feel it. I couldn't tell whether or not she worked for the demon girl, though. The girl now dyed a brilliant red. Looks back from beneath the full moon. I mean, she looked straight at me. That hadn't been a delusion, and it wasn't a misunderstanding on my part either. I'm pretty sure I had, printing. A Dooming costume sale. Oh well, whatever. There was no doubt about it. FES had looked at me. Just what were the emotions swelling in her eyes? What meaning did they hold? Why had her expression looked so painful? I didn't know. Maybe I'd find out if I asked her directly, but that would never happen. I couldn't set a foot in that concert venue ever again, let alone speak with FES. Wiping the sweat off my forehead, I managed to squeeze out those words. I logged straight on to ESO as soon as I got back from the Phantasm concert. The potato chips I had with me were already soggy, but I couldn't care less. Still surprisingly tasty. To me, ESO was my life. It was my happy place. A breath of fresh air that let me forget all about the real world. Oh, by the way, I'm getting copyright claims on all these visual novel streams. Huzzah! I'm not going to be bothering with disputing them because, well, from what I can tell, they're all correct matches. They are in on behalf of mages, so I'm like, okay, whatever, leave it. Doubt they would drop the dispute just because I streamed the game. or visual novel. As long as I could immerse myself in ESO, I could forget about all my troubles. I could stop being me and instead wander Baselard as Nightheart. But today, for some reason, Nightheart was a little off. Yes, I knew that he relied entirely on my inputs and my decisions, but somehow I found myself struggling to pull off things that I could normally do with my eyes closed. This game was supposed to be a breath of fresh air, but today, the more I played it, the more irritated I got. I knew it was all my fault, but I still took my anger out on Nightheart. I yanked at my hair and kicked the bare steel wall. Having let out all my anger, I took a deep breath and sat back down on my chair. And I stared vacantly at my monitor. Nightheart was just standing there, facing toward the gates of the city of Shangri-Lu, free of my control. His back was facing toward me, just as it always was when I fought enemies. And of course, he was at the maximum level. Now, the human known as Nishijo Takumi leveled up even slightly since he started playing ESO. No, since he'd been born. If I had, why was I so bad at talking to people, even though I was nearly an adult? I was like a borderline shut-in. If I didn't log in as Nightheart for weeks, well, he also turned into a shut-in like me. Whose eyes are those eyes? I suddenly remembered those words as I stared at Nightheart's back. I was mildly interested in what Nightheart would do when I wasn't controlling him. So, figuring I'd observe him for a little bit, I left my keyboard alone as I ate some chips. Then surely he'd waltz right into the city of Shangri-Lu, and blowing against his shoulder, right? He was the hero everyone worshipped after all.
Ne, Nightheart. 僕はいつでもお前を見てるんだぞ。お前はそれに気づいてるの。
And then, without me even touching the keyboard, Nightheart, who had been standing with his back to me, suddenly turned toward me. Or so it felt. Ha! In the end, I stared vacantly at the monitor for over an hour, but Nightheart stayed completely still the entire time. Well, naturally. It's just a game, bro. I'll tell you exactly what happened. I reluctantly decided to go to school today, but before I knew it, I found myself going to buy a phone with my little sister. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but I don't really understand it either. I thought I was going insane. But for the full quote. It wasn't anything simple like hypnosis or super speed. On top of that, I feel as if I only got to experience the tip of the iceberg. Quotation from a popular manga about bizarre adventures. Often used in order to cope with difficult to understand situations in comedic fashion. Bizarre adventures, huh? Would they have been JoJo's Bizarre Adventures?
お兄何ブツブツ言ってんの
は
それよりほらこの騎士はどうかって聞いてるんだけど
I think I want to go home. Besides, how many times do I have to tell you that I don't need a cell phone? God, it hurts having a sister this brain dead. When I had gone to school today, Nanami had made her assault right in my classroom. After happily saying, wow, you actually came to school today, she ordered me to go out and buy a phone with her once school was over. Once the bell rang, I tried to escape without her noticing, but I had forgotten how quick Nanami was on her feet. Ha! So after being chased and easily caught up to, I found myself being dragged all the way to the front of the station. I didn't want to go anywhere near the station, and I felt like the whole way there. Even now, I already felt like I was going to throw out. Nanami, though, not giving a damn about what I felt, was busy admiring the many different models on display in front of the store. I had to try to wrap my head around why exactly Nanami was so insistent about getting me a phone. I just got a headache instead.
これ色が結構可愛いじゃん。いいと思うな。
Since she was asking for my opinion, I gave a simple reply.
それっていい？
Ha!
でもな、お兄にはちょっと可愛すぎかも。似合わなさそう。
See, it didn't even matter what I said. It would happen regardless. I'd completely lost track of how many times I'd said, that's fine, by this point. She would ask for my opinion, but she didn't actually intend to listen to it. This was exactly why 3D girls sucked so much ass.
お兄、大丈夫？やっぱり人の多さにやられちゃった？マクディで休もうか？
McDonald's. Fucking prime hangout spot for Dokins. Oh, that place was hell incarnate. I finally shook my head no.
そっか。じゃあなるべく早めに決めるね。でもちょっと迷っちゃっててさ。
I sighed, deciding to just leave Nanami behind and go home. While Nanami intensely examined the array of cell phones, I took my chances to slip away. Huh? Oh, right as I turned toward 107, I saw something so strange that it stopped me dead in my tracks. What was that? Across the crowds of people on the stairs to 107 stood a girl that stuck out like a sore thumb. Was she holding a sword? Oh my god, FES? The color and roar it gave off felt somewhat similar to the accent FES had been using at the concert. In fact, I'd say it was perfectly fair to think of them in the same vein. But even then, it was still one massive sword. It might even have been even longer than FES's mic stand. To my surprise, the girl was wearing a Suime's uniform. Couldn't make out her face from this distance. But despite holding something so conspicuous, the girl seemed relaxed as could be. She simply watched people who walked down the street from her top of the stairs. Talk about bravery. I was seriously impressed. I couldn't believe she was walking around right smack in the middle of Shibuya with that massive toy sword. Must have had one hell of a humiliation fetish. Was the sword a cosplay prop from some new anime? Then again, I was pretty familiar with all the anime that were airing. Was there really a series with a sword like that? Had it slipped under my radar? Of course, walking around Shibuya holding one would be too much for me, but the sword itself is pretty damn cool. Kinda wanted to get one, honestly. I wonder if I could get one in Akiba. Even better if I could order it online. Oh. Ah! I was suddenly struck with an elbow to the back. The pain almost made me black out and collapse on the spot. I turned around to find a Nami with her hands on her hips, so alone as could be. Ha!
確かにナナが選ぶのに時間かけすぎたのは悪いと思うけどさ。だからってナナを置き去りにして逃げようとするなんてひどいよ。
I lazily shook my head from side to side.
お兄のバカ、携帯の電磁波の浴びすぎで腎臓を悪くして死んじゃえ。
Aww. Waves that exhibit properties of both the electricity and magnetism. First formally postulated by James Clerk Maxwell in 1864. No electric field and magnetic field oscillations cause them to mutually propagate each other, resulting in a wave that radiates through its surroundings. For that reason, these waves are referred to as electromagnetic radiation. Electromagnetic waves are divided by frequency into radio waves, infrared light, visible light, X-rays, ultraviolet light, and gamma rays. EM waves have long been thought to have harmful effects on the human body, but the World Health Organization has made a statement claiming that there is no scientific foundation behind the idea, nor any evidence that supports a causal relation between the two. However, there's currently no evidence that disproves the relationship either. I mean, visible light. Anyway. The fuck was her deal?
一生懸命お兄のために選んであげてたナナがバカみたいじゃん。こうなったらもう適当に決める。お兄なんてナナと同じ機種で十分だよ。根 気で今日契約するんだからね。それまで絶対逃がさない。
わかったよ。話せよ。
分かったならさっさと来て。
Ah, shit. I had my microphone muted for that. Oh well. Not gonna read that again. In the end, Nanami picked out a model with ease, as if she hadn't just spent 10 years trying to choose. After spending around an hour on the contract and all the technical stuff, I tried to finally head back home with my phone, but Nanami stopped me.
ナナが初期設定してあげるからマクディやろ。
Without waiting for a response, she grabbed me by the back of my collar and started dragging me to the nearest McDonald's. Not McDonald's. McD. Against my will.
どうせお兄、携帯持って帰っても電源入れずにほったらかしにするに決まってるんだから。ナナがちゃんと使えるようにしてあげる。
Shut down. Much longer was she planning to hold me hostage? Of all the places she could have chosen to do it in, why McD? The inside of the Shibuya McD was the embodiment of chaos. There were shitloads of people and none of them ever shut the hell up. The sheer number of Dokuns was off the charts. At the table right next to us sat 3 Dokun tier mothers with dyed brown hair. To make things even better, they brought their kids with them. They just left their children, 3 little crotch goblins with red hides, to be specific, to run around the restaurant stooling their heads off, and instead of controlling them, they just kept on chatting away. At a different table was yet another group of Dokuns, this time made up of 4 high school guys all laughing like obnoxious pricks. Next, 2 high school girls, completed with baggy socks and dyed brown hair, sat opposite to each other, hyper-focused on their phones. They didn't even bother talking. Beside them was a snoring, middle-aged businessman slumped down on his table, making it pretty obvious that he was giving out on work. But what really made me double take was this table close by with a group of 5 elementary schoolers, some boys, some girls. They all sat there with their little school bags on the floor, happily chatting it up with each other as their legs swung back and forth beneath the table. So, considering that it was a co-ed, was it a mixer? Weren't they elementary schoolers? Well, regardless, the point is that as far as the eye could see, there were groups of people that I avoided like the plague. Nanami had no problem at all relaxing at a place like this. Me, on the other hand, just setting foot in here only served to make my headache and nausea 1,000 times worse. But why the hell did I have to play along with my sister and stay here in the first place?
ねえねえ、着信メロディーはどうする？なんか希望ある？
Without even looking in my direction, Nanami played around with my phone as she prodded me for an answer.
アニソン。
却下。
Ha!
そんなだからお兄はオタクさんなんだよ。
Everyone asking me what I prefer. Come on, it's my phone now, so at least let me pick what I want.
あ、そうだ。大村彼らの新曲にしたら？あれすっごくいい曲だよ。最近のナナのお気に入り。
それこそ却下だ。
まあ、お兄に大村彼らは似合わないか。
After showing how little she actually cared about what I thought, Nanami took a bite of one of her french fries. I should probably mention that this bitch asked for a fish sandwich combo before dinner, one that I had to pay for. I, meanwhile, was feeling so garbed that my appetite was long gone. Piece of shit to start spoiling her appetite and mine. Fucking bullshit.
あ、そうそう。それとね。
For whatever reason, Nanami placed her bag on the wrap and started digging through its contents.
お、あったあった。
Then she proudly took out... Ha!
ゲロカエルの不良品。
不良品じゃないよ。先週出たギョロリゲロカエル。
は？
知らないんだ。やっぱ遅れてるな、お兄は。ゲロカエルンって毎週金曜日に新作が発売されてるんだよ。もう全部で12種類ぐらいあるんだから。
Seriously? Is there really enough demand for weekly releases?
ナナが携帯につけてるのは最初に出た普通のゲロカエルンでしょ？ 次がデブッチョゲロカエルンで、その次がカクカクゲロカエルン。
Without skipping a beat, Nanami recited the names of the various Goro froggies.
第4弾がのっぺらゲロカエルンで、第5弾が輝くゲロカエルン、第6弾が一番人気があって猫ゲロカエルンっていうの。
あ
その後が幽霊ゲロカエルン、眠るゲロカエルン、燃えるゲロカエルン、ゾンビゲロカエルン、酔っ払いゲロカエルン。
How the hell did she remember all those? Hang on, had she?
お前コンプリートしてるの？
もちろんだよ。
あ
全部集めなきゃ意味ないもん。毎週買うのに行列ができるんだからね。
For a half-assed piece of garbage like that? To be honest, even I could shit out a bit better design. Like, why had she even decided to start lecturing me on Ghetto Froggies to begin with?
というわけで、このギョロリゲロカエルンあげる。
Huh.
なんで？
このストラップを携帯につければ、少しは女子から「お、やるな」っていう目で見てもらえるから。
After saying that, Nanami started to put the strap on my phone. I don't want that. The fuck?
コンプしなきゃ意味ないんだろ。僕がそれもらったらお前揃わないぞ。
心配しなくても大丈夫。2つ買ったもん。
Ah! I figured.
毎回2つ買ってるのか。
I was starting to seriously doubt her aesthetic taste.
今回だけだよ。お兄の携帯用に余分に買ったの。
わざわざ。
わざわざ。
Having now finished attaching the strap, Nanami gave a satisfied nod before wrapping her mouth around her soda straw. Then she suddenly leaned forward, startling me.
別に並んだのはお兄のためじゃないよ。あ
Aww.
くまでついでなんだから。
Aww.
いらない。
Still leaning forward, Nanami opened her eyes wide. She looks like she might throttle me at any moment.
いらないって。ナナがわざわざ買ってきてあげたのに。
ついでだったんだろ。っていうか僕ゲロカエルンとか興味ないし、むしろキモいし。
だからお兄は上司にモテないんだよ。
I'd almost expected her to slap me, but surprisingly, Nanami managed to rein in her temper and sit back down. Then, instead of tinkering around at me, she started nibbling on the fry instead of as she sulked.
でも抵抗しても無駄だからね。ギョロリゲロカエルン、もうくっつけちゃったもん。
She sure was acting like the queen of everything. Then again, I knew jack shit about cell phones, so it was true that Nanami knew best here.
もし勝手に外したら毎週並んでもらうの K だからね。
並ぶって何に？
決まってんじゃん。新作ゲロカエルンを買うための行列。2時間待ちとか普通だから。
Not a chance in hell. No way was I gonna let my sister hit me with a threat like that. For a while after that, Nanami wordlessly continued to fiddle around with my phone. I wasn't particularly picky about whatever she was setting up, so I was honestly grateful for the silence.
なんだか変な気分だな。
Aw. Next time she opened her mouth, her solemn demeanor from before had completely disappeared. Because she only needed a few minutes to forget annoying shit instead of having to sleep at all. But talk about easygoing. Anyway, I envied her.
うん、やっぱ変だよ。お
Aw.
兄とこうして2人で出かけるのって久しぶりな気がするもん。いつ以来かな。よく思い出せないや。お兄はいつも部屋にこもってアニメ見てるかゲームしてるかだもんね。まあ、たまにはこういうのもいいかな、新鮮で。
あ
さすがに毎日はナナも嫌だけど。
Wow. Nanami placed my phone on the table and picked up her fish sandwich. She happily undid the wrapping, then hurriedly sank her teeth in. You know, come to think of it, I feel like she said at one point that the fish sandwich here was her favorite food.
せいぜい太るがいいさ。
Nanami instantly stopped moving. Bro, can you please? She glared at me menacingly. Then, after hesitating for a moment, she eventually held out her half-eaten fish sandwich.
半分食べる？
もう手遅れだよ。
そういうこと言うと上司に嫌われるって覚えておいた方がいいよ、バカ鬼。
Nanami ended up finishing the fish sandwich all on her own. What a fucking pass. Bro, you refuse to eat the other half. What are you talking about? Come on. Judgment is nigh for the city. After that, Nanami held me hostage with hours of useless chatter, and by the time I finally had my phone back, it was already dark. It had been a long, painful few hours, but eventually I was able to get away from Nanami and start heading back home. Fall seemed to be in full swing now, with a night breeze carrying a slight chill, one that soothed my headache and nausea. Those two things never failed to torment me whenever I split a long time in crowds. I'll see. Nanami? Okay, don't actually, but still. I'm not saying that. She only ever thought about herself. She probably didn't even have a clue about how much torture she constantly inflicted upon me. If I had the option, I'd love to snap my new phone completely in half right now and throw it into the nearest trash can. It isn't like I'd bothered with my own money after all. If I actually did that, it wouldn't just be Nanami that had come to my base, but my parents too. And then, without picking up on a damn thing, they'd just go, well, since it broke on you, let's go and buy you a new one. The idiots they are. They were. And thus, I reluctantly suppressed my urges to smash the damn thing. I needed to get home, and quickly. Could hear another night of ESO calling my name. Not a single day had passed recently that hadn't filled me with endless anxiety. I really hoped my peaceful everyday life would hurry up and come back already. Like that's ever gonna happen. On that night, another grotesque case occurred, the fourth New Gen case. Like always, Grim laid out the details to me when I was playing ESO. What's up, Grim? A bit later than usual today, eh? Whose eyes are this? Oh, hey! Stop scaring my man! Couldn't believe my eyes. Why did Grim know that phrase? I was completely taken aback. My fingers trembled on the keyboard. Didn't even know where to start with responding. Not even just looking at what he typed nearly took everything out of me. Fourth New Gen case happened. Been following the shitstorm this whole time. Things would be really heating up in Shibuya. This one's seriously fucking crazy doodle. The victim's corpse had all the blood completely drained out. They found them dead in the Inokashira station bathroom. The corpse was really something. The skin had turned green all over. Freaky. Seriously goddamn freaky. Maybe I've even started thinking that the cult series might even be true, to be honest. There's no way a person could do this. Bit my lip as I watched the messages flow. Inokashira. Station. Oh no. I know that name. My imagination came very close to forming an image, but I was just barely able to keep that delusion at bay. I took a gulp of cola from the bottle to calm myself somewhat. Damn that Grim. He had to be ambushing me like this on purpose. Eh? No reaction? How do you know so much about it? You're talking almost like you were there. Well, something like that. Also, I guess you're still not interested in this stuff, Nightheart. Region and all that jazz. Not enough to follow it. Too busy grinding in ESO. Never change, oh lightning-fast Nightheart. True video game addict that puts the rest of us to shame. That's why we love you. That's why we admire you. Bizarre adventures again. Ha! Video game addict. A term used to refer to someone that stays in the room and constantly plays video games for exceedingly long periods of time. After foregoing food, sleep, etc. Shit. I didn't really want to talk about New Gen, so I somehow managed to fool Grim into bringing the topic to an end. And by the way, take a look at this. Why? What do you think? Why? Archive.jp. I'm sensing some serious bait. Last time he done this, he acted like it was some gory shit, only for it to be some random dumbass meme. That this time could very well be the opposite. You seriously don't know about it? About what? Are you actually a wrong-sider, Nightheart? Fuck off. Fine, what is it? What if I said it's related to your precious serotonin? What? For real? Well, I had to look. As far as I could tell, the URL looked like it had linked to some auction page, so it probably wouldn't crash my computer or hit me with anything mentally scarring. A number of web pages are designed to overload web browsers or cause the operating system to behave abnormally. Links to such pages are frequently posted on anonymous message boards without any form of warning, and in the worst case scenario, they can have serious effects on the computer of whoever visits the page. Slightly excited, I opened the link. I figured. Happy blood in short supply. But like, I've seen that title somewhere before. Might have been deja vu again. And more importantly, where that... Really? I spun my mouse wheel and scrolled down the page. Holy shit. I could tell at a glance that the image that came up on my monitor was obviously gore. I averted my gaze to my left monitor in a panic and quickly closed the browser. Gore had only been on my screen for less than 3 seconds. The time I spent actually looking at it was even less than that. But even so... It's a picture of the corpse from the fourth New Gen case, from before the mass media started reporting on it. It's being sold on an auction like it's actually normal. It's totally normal. It's like they're putting a price on the victim's state itself. So basically, the seller is 100% the New Gen culprit. Isn't that insane? The seller name is a vampire. Actually, it's probably some throwaway. And so this is already caused a total shitstorm online. And posted all over tons of image boards. There's even memes. It's like Rule 34, people do this shit way too fast. I had to speed up my reading. Also, yeah. If it exists, there's porn of it. Oh yeah, did you notice the dying message? In the image. Dying message? It's written on the wall with the victim's blood. Still can't believe it's there. The culprit probably did it for shits and giggles. Hello, Nightheart-san. Are you alive? Is your computer frozen? Dying message. I've only seen the image for an instant, and yet... The victim's last message, written softly in deep red blood, had been burned into my mind. No matter how much I tried to not to think about it, the letters rose one by one. My closed eyelids, pushing me to realize them. Whose eyes are those eyes? Yep, whose eyes are those eyes? Yep. I knew these words all too well, words I often murmured to myself. Words I asked nobody in particular, the words Grim had first said when I jumped on ESO. It was like they were everywhere now. Those words that I had never actually said to anyone throughout my entire life. Whose eyes are those eyes? Yeah. Oh shit! That was the entirety of chapter 2? Holy shit. Okay. That was a short chapter. Compared to chapter 1. Holy what? Holy shit. Huh. Want to continue? Maybe. I was thinking about going for longer tonight, mainly because I do have a little more time. But nah. I finished all of chapter 2 anyway. So yeah, I think I will be fine. Save it again, There we go. Sheesh. It took... That was a lot shorter than, than chapter 1. Holy crap. Anyway, yeah, I shall be seeing y'all next time then. Goodbye.